Welcome, welcome, welcome to Empower Women in Business International Radio Show. I'm your host, none other than Nicole Mosby Taylor, also known as Taylor K on the mic. And we are so happy that you chose the opportunity to join us this evening. We have a phenomenal show that I'll tell you about shortly. But first, let me tell you a little bit about EWBI. So, EWBI, we serve a sisterhood of entrepreneurs who understand that individually you can do great things, but collectively we can forever change the world. Members of our movement share their struggles in a series of opportunities to enhance them personally and professionally. If that sounds like an organization that you would like to be a part of, visit our website at www.ewbiradio.org. Again, that's www.ewbiradio.org. Our quote of the day today: being fulfilled is turning your passion into purpose and walking it out in your pumps. Being fulfilled is turning your passion into purpose and walking it out in your pumps by Taylor Kay. So I chose that quote today because I have um, two wonderful entrepreneurs and authors on the show this evening that's going to tell you a little bit about their passion and how they took their passion and turned it into their purpose, and now they're walking it out and doing great work. So their passion, um, they have a mission to educate children and adults alike on child abuse, child molestation. So I just wanted to share some facts before even bringing them on. So 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys are victims of child abuse, child sexual abuse. Sex report studies also show that 20% of adult females and 5 to 10% of adult males recall a child abuse, sexual assault, or sexual abuse incident. And then in the US, 16% of youth ages 14 to 17 have been sexually victimized. So this is a very sensitive subject, but a very needed one that we need to talk about. Our next guest, she actually wrote a book to bring awareness for children. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Terry Johnson. Welcome, Terry.
Hi, good evening.
It's such a pleasure to have you this evening.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So if anybody is watching, we're going to have Terry on for our first segment, and we're going to have Barbara Moore on for our second segment. So Terry, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and because you've been on the show before, so some
Yeah,
of our viewers already know. So we're going to kind of skim over that, and we really want to like dig into this book and find out why you wrote the book, and a little bit more about the book, and we want to even hear some excerpts from the book. But first, just tell us a little bit about you.
sure. So I'm a proud graduate of Morgan State University social work program, and also a graduate of University of Maryland School of Social Work. I have my master's degree from there, and I've been a licensed social worker since 1996. I also hold a clinical license for alcohol and drug counselor since 2001, and I hold some state and national and international certification, in trauma, and also co-occurring disorders and for adolescents, and some other certifications. I've had my practice, Terry E. Johnson Clinical Consultative Services, since November of 2008. And it's a mental health practice, and I also offer consultative services for businesses that may be setting up programs that want to make it more friendly for people's wellness, mental health wellness, people that may be setting up programs, for instance, for their employees, or having, programs, summer school programs or summer camps, nonprofits, things of that nature. But I offer right now virtually, and also home based, but it's all brief therapy. I don't do long term, except for the clients that I have had for a while. Um, I also will offer workshops and training for, some in the past have been for work-life balance, self-care, benefits, for different businesses. They wanted their employees to know. Example, some of them didn't know how to access an employee assistant program, so offering workshops and trainings for that. I also have supervised social workers, counselors, addiction trainees, and other mental health professionals that seek their clinical licensure, state licensure. And some of the environments that I've worked in: detention centers, on the state and federal level, in prisons, managed care, inpatient psych, also ED psych, and education, case management. And currently, this past fall, I volunteered teaching social and emotional learning, and also body safety zones at the Arena Players with children 3 to 8 years old, which happens to also be the target group for my book. So that's just a little brief overview of my experience. I have almost 25 years experience, but the reason why I wrote this book really is because of the impact that I've seen on adults, believe it or not.
Well,
Children.
before you get into the
Oh, okay.
book, let
Hmm.
us. I do have another question.
Sure.
You mentioned workshop. Could you tell us just a couple of the workshops that you offer?
Right. I was saying, like, the and work and home, or work life balance. Um, Also, benefits, like some of the companies, they wanted their employees to understand what employee assistance program is, because they weren't accessing it. They didn't know that they could get help with finding child care, elder care, um, therapy. Some people had up to 12, anywhere from 1 to 12 sessions for free, no copay or anything. So it all depended on what that particular company was looking for. I would offer the workshop. Some of them had some issues with some discord amongst employees. So we talked about how to handle difficult co-workers. So we had to do some problem solving and things like that. So that's just a sample of some
Uh,
of the trainings and workshops.
that you offer. Awesome.
Hmm. Yep.
So now, were you able to hear some of the alarming statistics that I
Hmm.
shared? One in
Yeah.
five girls, uh,
Hmm.
1 in 5. I'm sorry, 1 in 7, I believe, boys.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
this is an
And that's what we
alarming,
know. That's what we
right?
know. Yeah.
Who has come out and
Yes.
shared?
Yes. And
Because
that's
there's so
scary
many
enough,
people
right?
who don't, yeah,
Yeah, that's
there's so
scary
many
enough.
of the children who, don't feel comfortable and
Right.
aren't sharing.
Right.
So, what about these statistics made you write your book? Because, well, go ahead and answer that first.
Yeah. So really, it wasn't so much about the statistics. It was about what I knew to be true, right? Because what I knew to be true was about the cases that hadn't been reported. One thing I want to share is that in our state and in a lot of states, if someone reports, even as an adult, if they report that they have been abused, even if the person is dead, a social worker still has to report it. If you're licensed, even a psychologist, we still have to report it. So I've reported out of this country. I've reported a case in El Salvador. I've reported a case in Virginia where the person was actually deceased. So I've had some interesting reports that I've had to make. And a lot of them, of course, the ones that have happened to a child, but a lot of cases I've also made for adult survivors that never told anyone, or
Mm.
they told someone and it was never reported. They weren't believed. And so what really impacted me, and some people are surprised by it, but really what really impacted me, to write my book, finally to write it, because I wrote it a long while ago, and I finally went and just self-published. But what really impacted me was the pain and all of the devastation that I saw happening with adults,
Mm.
the impact that I saw with people that I had to assess in prisons and in the detention center, the Baltimore intake and booking center, downtown Baltimore. A lot of the people that I talked to that had severe substance use issues, that had severe mental health issues, had a really long rap sheet, a lot of violence. A lot of them had a history of abuse, physical abuse, but also sexual abuse. And they had never been treated. A lot of them had never been believed. A lot of them blamed themselves. And what kept on eating at me was, yeah, it's good to always, it's always good to provide intervention, but what if we could prevent this?
Yeah.
What if we could hit this in the beginning? And I was doing it with my, students that I work with. I did it with my younger sisters that are now, in their late 30s. I did it with my own children. Uh, and I even did it with students when I wasn't, even before we had to earn law. When I was in the school system, my first year, I worked with students and talked to them about grooming, about all of those things. And was discouraged to do it, actually, because I didn't have permission. And I just did it under the guise of health. Uh, but what really impacted me was all of this devastation that actually caused devastation across generations, because people hadn't been treated. And so I thought, what would it be like if we could actually educate people and make them aware of them knowing there are certain things that you can do, that you have agency over your body. And yeah, it could still happen. I had a professor that I was trying to get to review my book, and she said, predators always find a way. And I say, yeah, they may, but we have to do something. So being able to come up with just basic things and placing them in zones, it still gave parents the time to actually name them themselves, but it kind of helped them along to kind of start the ball rolling. But to answer your question, it really was because of seeing all the devastation that it caused adults. I've had people in pretty high positions tell me and come to see me in my practice that have issues with their relationships in their marriages, that have trust issues, not able to have relationships because they just don't trust, and they think that they are damaged goods
Mm.
because of something that someone else did to them that they had absolutely no
No.
control
Right.
over.
Right.
So it was really the adults. Children are my favorite people. But it was really
Outside of
the,
me.
huh?
Outside of me.
You're one of my favorite people, but you're definitely not my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
But it was really the pain and hurt that I saw. I mean, big, burly, like frightening looking people with teardrops coming down their eye, tattooed teardrops coming down, that would break down and would share with me and tell me sometimes, like, I haven't told anyone.
Mm.
Guys that question their sexuality because sometimes it was the person of the same sex. And a lot of people are ignorant to the fact that women are predators too, and they kind of think, well, then that's a good thing. If you had sex early, then you the man or whatever else. No, not everyone feels that way. They may
Right.
initially feel that way because that's what society tells them, but later on, some men really struggle with it and have some issues with how they were violated and their trust was broken.
Yeah, I think that movie Antoine Fisher really did a good
Oh
job
my
with
gosh.
showing
Mm,
how just showing how how he was broken, and it took
yeah,
him people to love on him to get him to be whole again.
yeah.
And that's what's going on in our society. ACEs is real.
Hmm.
That helps to contribute to a longer ACEs long
Higher ACEs rate.
higher HS score.
Hmm.
And it's important for people to do your work like you're trying to do, which is educate prior.
Hmm.
Let's get a jump on this. Let's make sure that we educate and give them the tools that they need. So, God forbid, if they do come into encounter that situation, they know what to do. They know that it's not their fault.
Right.
And so
I wanted to say something that you brought up that comes to mind. One of the things that I think people don't believe that young children can grasp it. And I can tell you just from experience that they absolutely can. My book, an educator that I really respect, she gave me some feedback after she purchased my book, and she was like, "I love your book. It's straight to the point. It's just straight to the point. You hit it, and it's very, you can't miss it. You didn't miss anything." And in this book, even though it's a book about body safety zones, it's also about self advocacy. It's also about empowerment, right? I love that. Education is key. Yep, it is. It's about advocacy too. One of the things that I teach the kids is how to be BSZ ambassadors and advocates, right? And so the ambassadors, they're the ones that, they educate. So it gives the babies a chance to educate adults. They love that. It gives them a chance to teach us what they have learned. And then
mhm,
what happens? The more you teach somebody, the better you learn and you become. And then it brings out ideas, and then they can, they add something to it. And then they share it, right? But then it also teaches them how to advocate. I always like to share my pre-K kids when they go in the bathroom and you see all these little people, running out before COVID, running out of the bathroom. Miss T. Johnson, such and such was in there, and they touched such and such body safety zone. Or I saw them looking at such and such, and they give the numbers. And so, or he touched such and such, body safety zone. They get it, and they know from the book that it doesn't matter who it is.
that's
I test them and I say, well, what if Miss T. Johnson wants to tell you? Miss T. Johnson loves you, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, how do you know? And so they tell me how they know that I love them. And then I ask them, well, am I safe? And they say, yeah, you're safe. And I'm like, well, how do you know I'm safe, right? So I test them. And then I say, so can Miss T. Johnson touch body safety zone? They're like, no. Or some of them say yes. And I'm like, no, Miss T. Johnson can't touch it. No one can touch it. And so that gets them, thinking. And so then I let them know if someone does, that doesn't make you wrong. You're still perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. However, we have to tell. We tell a trusted adult, and we go down that line too. So that's basically the gist of it. And I just pray that it's more and more people that it's not just used for a tool, but that it motivates like a whole genre, that people will expand upon it and do so much more with it, because we can't afford it. We're in a pandemic, but there's been a pandemic of exploitation and of our children. That's been going on for generation after generation and generation. And we just can't afford it. And if you look at substance use, if you look at mental illness, if you look at violence, if you look at all those things, you can see some correlation with abuse, whether
mm,
it is sexual, whether it's physical. You can see a correlation there. So why the powers that be don't see this as something that's important to tackle, and why people think that reactive, we were just talking about this earlier, you and I, why they think that being reactive is so sexy and intervention is so sexy and the thing to do, I'm not clear. um But prevention to me is the way to go. It's prevention over intervention all day, every day for me. And it's definitely my ministry, my mission, and my message to get this going. So for whatever time left that I have that God gives me, this is what, I have to push because it, it's just too painful. It's just way too painful. And it does a lot of damage to families. And our children deserve better, but we deserve better too. So,
You're so true.
yeah.
So let's go to some of our comments, and then after the comments, then we're
Mhm.
going to go straight to your book, okay?
Great.
So Dondra Harper says, good evening. Okay, you want to flash them,
Mhm.
Crystal? Mary says, love to see people working with our youth to help educate and provide better options. Yes, thank you, Mary. Thank you
Yes.
for tuning in. Make sure you all share this. Michelle Hutnell says, hi. Hi, Sister Hutnell. She said, absolutely.
Mhm.
Does it say Olive says, so inspiring to watch women who have such goals building the society and the world. Courage to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And Miss Barbara, who will be on shortly, says, yes, education is the key. And she said, great work, Terry.
Thank you.
So Tanja Henson says, yes, keep it real. Bless you.
Thank you.
And Miss Linda says, absolutely. Yes, it has been. All right. So I just wanted to acknowledge our viewers. We thank each and every one of you. Please hit the share button. Share, tell people to come and join this this amazing conversation. It's important for us to do our part and bring awareness on this issue. And that's why we have these two phenomenal guests in our studio today, in our virtual studio today. So Terry,
Yes.
let's not keep them waiting any
Okay.
longer. Unveil this book, this phenomenal book.
Books.
Books.
Yes.
Yes, he
I'm
has
going to
a
show.
book, a coloring book. And did you bring the doll too?
Yes, I have the doll.
All right. And the box.
No, I didn't bring the box. But
Okay.
here's the doll. This
Here
is Miss.
is our doll.
Yeah, this is Miss Persistent, Miss Be Persistent. And on the back it says love and protect children. Because that's all I could fit on there. But the saying is every child deserves to be loved and protected by by the adults in their lives.
Yes.
This is the activity and coloring book. Hopefully I'll be able to.
Take that little thing off of there.
Oh, sorry guys. This is the
Body Safety Zone coloring activity book.
activity and coloring book. So I'll be able to show you that real quick. But I wanted to read you a few excerpts from the actual book. Okay.
Yes, please do.
All right. All right. All right. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Frederick Douglass.
Yes, one of my favorite quotes.
This is the body safety zone awareness ribbon, and it's in blue because blue is actually the color for child abuse. Let me show you some of the pages. All right. So, what are the different body safety zones? Oh my, wonderful. I see so many friends raising their hands to share the answers. Mimi, Pernell, Tata, Baba, Shay Shay, Nakaya, Tydre, and Dawn Dawn. Okay, Mimi, tell us what body safety zone 1 or BSZ 1 is. Mimi said, it's our mouth. And only food, liquids like water or juice, snacks, or medication should go in our mouths, Miss Be Persistent. And all the children I just named are either my children or my nieces and nephews. Remember, all of your body belongs to you. And if someone is in your space or touches you and you don't feel comfortable, you have a right to tell them, especially tell a trusted adult right away if someone touches your body safety zone. Okay, friends, let's go over the last two body safety zones, 3 and 4. Our front BSZ3 and back BSC4 bottoms are our private parts. No one should touch you there unless you need help washing up or have had an accident in the bathroom. And then I go over with them. That's only for really small kids. So even though I read that, I break it down and I explain. Only the person that takes care of you or has your parents' permission should help you. Now I want to kind of get close. Sorry. So it shows all of them, if you can see. This is all in the front, and then that's the back. This is the BSD mantra. My body belongs to me. You don't have permission to touch me. And I'll just read the last page. Our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Those who abuse them tear at the fabric of our society and weaken our nation. History will judge us by the difference we make in the everyday lives of children. Nelson Mandela.
So powerful.
And the front of this,
I'm
this book is Miss B Persistent, and the woman here is Rhoda Lee Jones, which was my great grandmother.
That is awesome.
And so just to share a few pages, coloring books, it has different things in here but one of the things that I wanted to include is that to reinforce the body safety zones, I have a memory card game. I don't know if you all remember this when we were growing up. Remember the memory cards?
Yes.
So I have those in here as well. And you just can punch them out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's important for us to, allow the children to have fun while they're learning, because it sticks so much better than if we just tell them something, just lecture to them.
And one of the things that I do, is that we have a part in there that is, even in the book, I didn't read the whole book, of course, I just read a few pages, but we do movement in the beginning. So we can I call it getting your wiggles out. So we do that to have movement, and, because children learn different ways. Some are kinesthetic, some, are auditory, some are, visual. So, different ways.
Lindy said this is much needed information.
Yes.
Thanks, ladies.
Yes, thank you. Please share. Yes.
So, Terry, tell them how they can get in contact with you or purchase these books and all.
Okay, so yes, there's my information right there on the screen, and there's the Etsy shop going across your screen.
So this is being recorded for the radio, so you want to repeat it as well.
Right. So it's all right. So I'm on IG, Instagram as Persistence is the Way. I'm on Facebook as Persistence T like Tom 1, the number 1. My email is bodysafetyzones@gmail.com. And then my Etsy shop is www.etsy.com/shop/persistence is the way.
Awesome. I can't believe our time is up, but thank you so much for coming on. Now, before I let you go, I just want to ask you, everybody knows that this is Black History Month.
Yes.
Tell us who has impacted you for who do you celebrate for Black History Month?
Who do I celebrate? Oh, there's so many that I celebrate, but who I honor is definitely my great grandmother, Rhoda Lee Jones. She was an autodidact. She was a sharecropper from the Eastern Shore. She taught herself how to read and write and play the piano, and she was a survivor of abuse. So she is my number 1, but definitely a warrior woman.
Yes, awesome, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much
coming.
for having me. Thank you for having me. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
All right. So we're gonna just take a break, but I have another phenomenal guest coming up, Miss Barbara Moore. So if you guys could just keep it locked right here on Empowered Women in Business International Radio.
You don't want to miss.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up.
And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually turn it, you could eventually become a master of it. It's the only way to become a master of something, to be really with it. And anything you can be interested in, you'll find others who are. But it's absolutely stupid to spend your time doing things you don't like in order to go on spending things you don't like or doing things you don't like, and to teach your children to follow in the same track.
If you're not willing to risk, you cannot grow. And if you cannot grow, you cannot become your best. And if you cannot become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? You have to harness your will to say, I'm going to challenge myself. Sometimes I have to pull myself out of bed and say, come on, Les. Things I know I should do, I don't do. Things I shouldn't do, I do. I found that the biggest enemy you have to deal with is yourself. So deciding as you look at your life, as you look into the future and say, what fears am I holding on to? What fears that I'm allowing to imprison me? It's keeping me from breaking out. That's keeping me from living up to my true potential. That's keeping me from really being happy. That's keeping me from having a sense of adventure and excitement in my life. What's keeping me from controlling my destiny? You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in your abilities. You've got to believe in your service, your company, your ideas, unquestionably. You got to have faith, and that faith gives you patience. That it's not going to happen as quickly as you want it to happen.
Failure is a detour, not a dead end. Perseverance is the key. You can believe you deserve to win. You can feel that you determine your results. You can feel incredibly motivated and inspired, and you can practice. But unless you put in the perseverance in actual effort, all the training in the world won't help you unless you hang in there when the going gets tough.
If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep, if all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, and if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it, and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after this thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famish, or gulf, sickness or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God you'll get it.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for staying tuned right here on Empowered Women in Business International Radio Show. I'm your host, Nicole Mosby Taylor, aka Taylor K on the mic, and we have a phenomenal guest that we're about to bring up, none other than Miss Barbara Moore with Can't Close My Eyes. Welcome, Miss Barbara.
Hi, Nicole. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for tuning in on the first segment. Your comments was so very much appreciated. So
Thank you
can
for
you,
having me.
oh, of course, of course. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Miss Barbara.
So my name is Barbara Moore. I'm the founder and the director, president wear many hats in the organization and Can't Close My Eyes. Can't Close My Eyes bring awareness and advocacy for child sexual abuse and rape violence and much, much more. It all started for when I was a a 20-year-old. I was raped. And 10 years later, the rape silenced me. I didn't share the information with anyone. I didn't trust anybody. And I was very, very overprotected of my children after that occurred. And only people that shared space with my children were family members and close friends whom I trust. Ultimately, about 10 years later, my daughters were molested by my oldest brother. And instead of holding this in silence and allowing that tragedy to control me and put me in a place of stuck in despair and disappointment and betrayal, I yelled it out to the world. I told everyone, anyone who would listen. I did for my daughters that I couldn't do for my 20-year-old self. And I reported it. I wouldn't allow my family. There were family members, including my own mother, that wanted me to sweep it under the rug. And I wouldn't allow it to happen. I'd always swept my situation under the rug. The lioness inside of me, the mama bear came up, and I had to protect my children, and I had to break these generational curse of child sexual abuse, which I later found out was going on in the family for quite some time. I got my brother arrested. I followed all the way through. I got him placed on the sex offense registry. I got my whole family wraparound counseling. I discontinued the relationship. Let me say that again. I discontinued the relationship because there's so many families, there's still children that are still stuck in the environment of their abuses because everybody wanted to sweep it under the rug. And the child was silenced and shut down, and they're still breaking bread with the person that abused them. I couldn't do it. It didn't sit well with me. In counseling, I realized, and this was traditional and spiritual counseling, I realized that it wasn't my fault. I just trust somebody whom I was supposed to be able to trust, and they betrayed that trust. And I took that pain and turned it into passion. I talked to my daughters about it, and later my husband, and we decided together that I would use the rest of my life. We would use our life to stop another child from being a victim again. Well, that's how Can't Close My Eyes was born. But I've been doing it since 1995, but on the organizational level at 2014.
2014. So tell us now, I know that Can't Close My Eyes took a little shift recently, but first let's tell them about the foundation and what you've done thus far, and then we'll talk about the shift. So just tell us a little bit about you going into the schools and talking to the kids, your scholarship, and so many other wonderful your conferences that you've held. Could you just share that with us?
Sure. Initially, like, I didn't know where to start. So I just started with neighbors, similar to how you started your female women's empowerment with your daughter's friends. And I started with neighbors, family members, and then I moved on to rec centers. I would do safety workshops, just talk to different people, and you'll find out that you're not alone as you communicate with others. This is no longer the little dirty secret. We cannot ignore the fact that this has happened and it's destroying people's lives. And the more I talked about it, the more I learned that so many other people have experienced it. And just like you and Terry shared earlier, that's only those whom have reported it. What about the hundreds and thousands and millions of people who never tell anyone their story? So I started talking to people about it. People started inviting me to their basketball playoffs to talk to the athletes and the rec centers, their churches. And we would just have a conversation. There was not much information in 1990s and the 80s to teach us on how to really protect ourselves. It wasn't available like it is today. Right. And people just, they don't want to have the uncomfortable situations. So I just started having them. And
I'm sorry. Now, to add to the statistics, there are so many that are going untold. So I interned at an organization called the FIT Unit, Female Intervention Team, I believe it was, for DJS. Yeah. The young ladies that I work with, I would say 99% of them had been, raped, child molested, some type of negative interaction with them sexually. And I was just astonished. So my question was, who's really doing these numbers? And then still, even once you have it doesn't matter how many times you ask people, they only going to tell people that they feel comfortable sharing with sometimes. So the numbers are still going to be skewed. And like you said, it's still going to be, millions out there that we don't have the data on because people don't feel comfortable with sharing. So it's so important. And I commend you for going out and having these lectures. And you even came to my school and spoke to my mentoring group a couple of times, you and your daughter. So you guys are doing amazing work. How can maybe people want to volunteer and help you with this mission? What would they do to be able to do so?
Well, all they have to do is contact me, go to the website, can'tclosemyeyes.net, and they can inbox me on Facebook, Can't Close My Eyes, and on Instagram. Even in my personal page, you can message me, Barbara Moore, on Facebook. The problem with it, Nicole, is that everybody that comes to me who have either they experienced child molestation or a family member who has, I always refer them to traditional counseling, because I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach, and I help people, I guide people, and I support them through the system. I teach them how to go through the system, because the system is not victim friendly. It wasn't when it happened to me, and it's not today. There's still a lot to be learned for the system, police officers, Department of Social Service, Child Protective Services. It's still a lot to be learned on how to handle people carefully after such devastating experiences. Mm-hmm. So that's what I teach them, who to talk to, who to ask for, the questions to ask, when to follow up, whom to follow up with. And I just give them support. But I always refer people to traditional counseling, just in case they need it. But a lot of times people prefer to speak with me because I am a survivor. I have learned through my own personal experiences why AA works and NA works, because the person is standing in front of you had already been through what you've been through. And therefore, people are more receptive of getting information from them because they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's why a lot of people, that's why we don't know what these numbers are, because this thing is so detrimental. It goes down to the soul. It's so hurtful that somebody sitting across you want to know that you understand how they feel, that you're not judging them. Terry has done an extraordinary job. She was doing it in the school before Aaron's Law. And that's what I'm pushing towards right now. I'm pushing the government to implement Aaron's Law in our public schools, especially in our cities, in the city of Baltimore, where there are more challenges and the least resources. But we all have to have these conversations. You will be shocked on what somebody have to tell you that they've been wanting to tell somebody for forever. We need to have them in our family, amongst our family members. We need to have them with our children. I didn't know the right questions to ask my children. I didn't know the right question. My mother didn't know the right questions to ask me, and how to teach me to be safe. And I didn't know how to teach my children to be safe. But my grandchildren and all the children whom God has called me to serve are much safer today than we were back then.
Wow. And it's because of you and Terry, and because of other organizations, because I Can't Close My Eyes, that children are being safe, because you guys are educating them. And like I said, giving them those tools to know what to do if they get into those situations, and what touches are good touches and what touches aren't good touches, and who you should go to if you have experienced that. So job well done to you both. So now, I understand where the direction that you that your organization is going in, and I hope that you're still continuing to do some of those the foundational things. But tell us about this new book. We're so excited to hear.
Okay, so me and you have talked about it quite some time ago, and I was sharing with you, and you also witnessed at my workshop the information that I shared with the parents and teaching the kids to protect themselves, about knowing the correct name of their body parts, their vagina and their penis, and how it could be misinterpreted. Just that little simple thing and how important it is. And as I was doing the research and began writing that book, and I'm not finished with it. I will continue. It's like God led me to another direction. It's so many parents who are ignorant, and we know ignorant is not a bad word, on how to teach our children to protect themselves. Ignorant just simply means you do not know, you don't have the information, you have no knowledge of. And so he put it in my spirit to write a book, and the title is Dear Parent, Child Sexual Abuse, It's Real. We must have the uncomfortable conversations. And then in the book, we go on to talk, asking those uncomfortable questions, when to ask them. You know, I would ask my daughter, you know, was there anybody touching her any kind of way that felt uncomfortable? And she would say, no, mommy. And she would tell me later when it was disposed that my brother was standing right behind me and was looking at her and glaring at her and intimidating her so she wouldn't share the information with me. And you're supposed to take them somewhere separate, somewhere by themselves. If you're picking your child up from a party or sleepover, you don't ask how did things go in front of the individuals. You wait until your child is alone and you ask them those questions. How did things go? How did anybody do anything to make you feel uncomfortable? Is there anybody in your room when you wake up at night? Just like Terry said, it doesn't matter how young you are, a child can articulate or show you that there's something wrong. I once had an 18-month-old who every time she was around a particular type of man, she would run and hide. The man was an older man, mid-50s or so, bald-headed and a big belly. She wouldn't do it around younger men, you know, because her dad was young and her uncles were young. But every time this particular shape of man would come around, this child would run and hide and cry. And the mother didn't understand what was going on. And then we later found out that her step-grandfather was molesting her. And that's exactly what he looked like. And if she wasn't watching and paying attention, she would have missed that. Well, Terry also talked about the fact of women being predators and how we ignore that. We have to call a thing a thing. I have men who have cried in tears talking with me about being molested by an older babysitter. And some of them has boasted about it, like they were so happy that they got an opportunity to have sex with somebody who was more educated, more advanced than them. Later on, it destroyed their lives. Call a thing, that's still child sexual abuse. And then we got to also address peer sexual abuse, the same age, but for some reason the child is coerced or intimidated by the other child and molested. We don't deal with those things. In the book, it'll discuss if a child molests another child, there's a difference between children experimenting, than a child doing sexual acts on a child that no child at that age would know. You have to deal with those things. I had parents who said, oh, I just stopped them from going over their house. Well, they'll be molesting the next child to sleep over. It has to be addressed. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Ask your child, is there anybody taking photos of their body? You know, when you get ready to take a bath and mommy takes off all your clothes, it is psychologists and therapists and psychiatrists out there that's going to disagree with the things that I say in this book. But that's because nobody else is saying it. Nobody's asking these raw questions. And you have to ask them age appropriately. We have to watch our children when they're doing play, mommy and daddy play, husband and wife with dolls of the same sex or opposite sex. Just like the doll Terry has. I'm not sure if it's for the same reason, but we have to pay attention to these things and make observations. We have to interview those that we are leaving our children in the care of. Coaches. I'm going to talk about community grooming in the book. He's a great guy. Oh, he's the youth pastor. He loves children. Oh, he's the cool uncle. He's grooming the whole entire environment. Nobody's going to feed their child because everybody loves that youth pastor and that youth pastor. Studies have shown that a predator has sexually assaulted over 200 times before they're exposed. Not 200 victims, over 200 times before they're
times.
Yes, that's a lot. That is a lot. And the book is going to discuss why would you, and we're absolutely not talking about the victim. There's no victim bashing because you are not responsible for someone else who hurt you. They and they alone are responsible. But why would you ever feel comfortable taking your child around the predator that molests you?
That's powerful. That's really powerful. Do we have any comments, Crystal? Because I want to get to them before we have to, close up. So Terry Johnson says, Miss Barbara, you are on it. So, I mean, when you think about this topic, I know it's an uncomfortable topic, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. So I just thank you so much for joining us this evening, Miss Barbara. So tell us, is there anything that I didn't get a chance to ask you that you want to share with the audience today?
No, it's just that we just got to do the work, and we got each one reach one, teach one. So I'm just encouraging those who have been fortunate enough, like Terry discussed earlier, that are not addicted to drugs. I did human trafficking for almost 2 years, street outreach. I've seen the individuals out there in the streets, in the lowest of the low, and where they don't feel like they're loved or anybody care about them. And most people get upset because the 8-year-old was raped, and they cry for the 5-year-old that was molested. But they forget that 35-year-old that's addicted to drugs is out there being human trafficked is the 5-year-old that never got any help. So we just gotta show each other more love, and we gotta keep having uncomfortable conversations, and we just have to. It's no longer the little dirty secret. That's what I gotta say about child sexual abuse. Is no longer a little dirty secret.
Tell us about when you received 5,000 signatures online on an online petition to take to Governor O'Malley.
Okay, so there was a child molested. Well, it was. I knew we were going to lose. I went in knowing that we were going to lose because it was double jeopardy. But it didn't matter. I wanted to expose it. My niece contacted me, Michelle Hutton. She's on now, and she said, "Boy, look at this. There was a child molester. He was a teacher, and he had molested a 12-year-old little girl, and the little girl was horrified, and she could not handle it. Her mom tried to do everything possible, get her help, take her to therapy, talk about it, and be supportive. So she committed suicide." And so she was so angry that she really made a big deal of it. The teacher, it was around the time that the sex offense registry first began. And he was placed on the registry, and he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get an apartment. It followed him everywhere he went. And there were 300 in particular individuals in the state of Maryland that was placed on the registry when it started, but their offenses occurred prior to the registry being put in place. So they went to all the way up to they requested that they be taken off because it was double jeopardy and it was against their rights to be placed on something that was not in place when they were convicted. And they were telling the truth. We know the judicial system is systematically racist. So I can't not agree with something being wrong when it happens all the time amongst African Americans. So we knew we were going to lose, but we still fought and asked the governor to keep them placed on the registry for their crimes. And we got over 5,000 signatures. We got over 3,300 on change.org. and then we did another about 700 by foot. And
Amazing.
again, it didn't. I knew we were going to lose. I was hoping that we didn't, but it was still exposure, and it exposed them and some of the parties that was involved, so that even though you would no longer be on the registry, we know who you are.
Wow. That is amazing. You're doing so many different things to help, bring the light to this issue. Um, I just, like I said, I just want to commend you. It's amazing the work. I've been able to see it firsthand, and I see when you come in and you capitalize my young ladies to
Yeah.
the point where you could have heard a pin drop, and and they wanted to hear that information, and they wanted you to help them afterwards. We were able to reach some that came to you to tell you, look, I need some help. And so that's what make this work so important, and that's why I had this show, because I was talking with Terry, and Terry has sent her amazing book to so many different school systems,
Good. Great.
but she's not hearing back from them. We
Wow.
have to bring this topic to light to show people the severity of this of this. And if we don't highlight it and explain the statistics and talk about what's being done and what can continue to be done, then I just don't get it. I don't understand why we have to be a society that is reactive to everything instead of being proactive and getting you and Terry's book in schools so that we can educate to help prevent. So I can't get it. I don't understand why we sit back and we wait for something to happen and then we react, when you have positive tools right here in place that we can utilize that will help, bring now we're not going to say bring an end, but it could, very well decrease it in a huge way if we got to utilize things like the book and got to utilize your conference. Let's talk about your conference and how amazing the conference would be, but how not empty it was, but how many more children should have been in those seats. What is it
Absolutely.
that the parents won't get them there to get that information? What is it about our society that we continue to act on this reactive basis?
It's amazing to me. Sometimes it feels like it's pulling teeth to get people to provide themselves with what is necessary, even when it's offered on a silver platter. Um, my last event was in a very bad month. It was in May. It was graduation. It was Mother's Day. It was all kinds of things going on. But I dare not cancel. I dare not, because I honestly believe that any platform absolutely that's available, I'm going to utilize that could possibly save somebody's lives. I watched it over and over again. Adults being healed, 60-year-old from a child's workshop. A male going home and telling his entire family what happened with him, including his children, and his marriage getting better from a child's workshop. It's like pulling teeth. But personally, my resume has built up to the point where I don't have to beg people to come anymore. I'll go to you. This is what we have done. This is what we have accomplished. And even then, you're still going to get rejection because, again, it's the uncomfortable conversation. Nobody wants to talk about it, and then we have so many pedophiles and predators in so many different places. They don't want this children to be educated. They don't want families to know the signs and symptoms and what to look for. We have to push and press through it. And until we talk about it and keep talking about it and continue to talk about it, nothing is going to change. We kept talking about bullying for years. Oh, they're just thin-skinned, toughen up. But now we realize that children are committing suicide and doing mass shootings at school because of bullying.
Right.
Can we imagine how many children have committed suicide after being molested? We talked about domestic violence. I remember a time where a police officer would come to a home and the wife was bloody And oh, you should listen to your husband. I remember that. But now you will be arrested whether the woman presses charges or not. This is what we have to do in pushing child sexual abuse and getting these predators to think twice about touching our children and
Yeah.
encouraging our children and giving them the power to say, no, absolutely, that's wrong. Aaron's Law has been implemented, has passed in Maryland since 2016, but it has not been implemented in not one county except for Worcester County in Maryland.
Well, we're
And
going to have you come back on the show, Miss Barbara, so you can tell us all about Aaron's Law. This was amazing. We appreciate you coming. But I want to give you an opportunity to share how people can get in contact with you. Can you give them your website and information?
Sure. It's can'tclosemyeyes.net. You can inbox me, you can leave your information, and I'll contact you. We also have a Can't Close My Eyes Facebook page. People have contacted me from in different countries about advice and sharing and support. And then we have my personal page, Barbara Moore, Facebook, as well as Instagram, Barbara Moore, where you can message me and I will get back to you or somebody from the team.
Thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to donate, if you feel moved by Can't Close My Eyes, make sure you donate, because small organizations, small nonprofits like ourselves, we thrive off of your donations. We don't get that big money because we're boots on the ground, really doing the work. So please visit Can't Close My Eyes and make a donation. Donate a book. Go to Terry's Etsy page, go and purchase the book and donate it, and give it to a neighbor, a church member, give it to a school and ask them to put it in their library. It's so important for us to get the word out. We have to do our part. I do have to close. So thank you so much, Miss Barbara, for coming on. I'll have you on again, again and again, because we love you here at Empower Women in Business International. So we say good night, everyone. Don't forget to keep it locked right here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We have a special guest coming on next week. We have Lisa and Kelly Borton from Borton Transportation and Flawless Faces, which will be in our studio on next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So make sure that you lock it right here. And we're going to close as we always do. Individually, we can do great things, but collectively, we can forever change the world, by Nick Mosby. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.